A very warm welcome to everyone. This is Martin from Ecoterra Adventures. I'm here with Kai Kolodziej from Austria. Kai is an incredible, talented macro and nature photographer who just won the Nature Photographer of the Year of Austria title with his incredible images. And he's here with us to talk about mainly macro photography and nature photography and show you a glimpse of his images, explain them, and have a talk about a casual chat about macro photography itself. Hopefully, whoever watches this video can learn from it, and hopefully you will like the content. Make sure you find and have a look at Kai's website. Have a look at his beautiful images. Have a look at his awarded images and learn about his work as well. So Kai, very welcome, very warm
Hello,
welcome.
thank you for the nice introduction, Martin.
No problem at all. Thank you for accepting my invitation. And I just wanted to ask you, how did you get into wildlife and macro photography?
That started with my studies in biology. So I'm a biologist too.
Mhm.
I studied it on the university in Vienna. And so I went quite a lot outside. And then I started taking pictures of the animals I found. And with time, I tried to capture more than just a document of what I have seen and try also to promote them a bit, as I have a focus on reptiles and amphibians, so not the animals everybody loves. And I think with nice pictures you can change the mind of people, and that's very important for me. So I'm also giving quite a lot of talks about these animals to raise a bit of awareness for them.
And that's very nice. I like the concept. While I'm not a biologist, I really like when people, introduce these species. As you said, most of these are not particularly liked with the masses, but I think with some very nice photography, you can bring people closer to these unloved animals and create awareness and eventually make people interested, perhaps learning about them.
Yes. I totally agree, and especially as both groups are very highly endangered and threatened. So amphibians are one of the most threatened species of vertebrate in the world. So that's a big part to raise awareness that these animals are beautiful and they deserve protection.
I agree. I can't agree more with you. And have you started straight away with macro photography, or did you have to learn about how to take the best pictures about these, to use macro lens, or did you try with zoom lenses first? How did you get into it?
First, I started with the camera of my mother, which was a Nikon D5100 and standard zoom lens. But soon I got some close-up lenses, and after that macro lenses. Yeah, in fact, I first bought a macro lens for the camera of my mother before I even bought my own camera.
Oh,
So that's
nice.
how I started, but I moved on macro lenses quite early on. And now I'm using the mirrorless versions of these lenses, in fact.
Nice. That sounds very nice. I remember when I first, started traveling to destinations where I could see like exotic frogs and snakes. I had no idea what macro photography and macro lens was. I went to Bali in 2016, and that was like the first location where I could see, pit vipers and some exotic frogs, and that's when I realized, oh, I really want to photograph these animals. And I personally thought, without not being a photographer at all, just being on the beginning of the road, I thought the zoom lens would be completely fine. And then quickly I realized in the field that, for example, you need minimum focusing distance, and and it's not exactly the same what I was looking for. So I remember I got quite frustrated because I couldn't really take pictures because there wasn't enough, I kept too close distance. I didn't know about the minimum focusing distance, so I had no idea what was wrong. So I went home, I got really frustrated. I couldn't take any pictures. And I started researching, how do people take pictures of frogs and stuff. And then I just realized, oh no, there's a whole new genre of photography called macro photography with specific lenses. So it was a completely an eye opener for me. And personally, that's how I started, a couple of years after that specific trip.
Yeah, I started a bit like that, but I started in Austria, so it was easier to adapt. Not on a big trip. When I did my first trips, it was also Asia, but
Hmm.
Thailand. And yeah, then I already knew that I needed a macro photo lens for my kind of photography.
Hmm.
And right now, yeah, the lenses got a bit more. So in the next slide, I want to show my equipment. So right now I have too much in my camera bag, and to be honest, that's not even everything I have. So it gets more and more. So I am using various macro lenses. I'm using mainly the Nikon 105 millimeters macro lens
Hmm.
for a set. But also a Canon 35 millimeter macro. Uh, I'm using Opteka 50 millimeter, which is quite similar to the Laowa
No.
50 millimeter macro lens. So that's basically the same lens. And I'm using other lenses too, which I am using a bit like macro lenses.
Hmm.
For example, the Nikon 180 to 600 millimeters. It has a very close focus and distance. So
Hmm.
for big and venomous snakes, it can be really interesting to use this lens because you have around 2 meters of distance between you and the venomous snake, which can be quite an advantage.
Yes, I agree.
I often use flashes. So I have a Godox flash, a normal one. To be honest, I'm not sure which one. I have more of them. And I have the Godox twin flash, the MF 12. Yeah, and to transport everything, I have a f-stop backpack, the Tilopa one. So all these lenses can fit in this backpack, which is quite amazing. It's very sturdy and it's also quite durable, but it's very heavy and it's too
Yeah,
big for to take it on the plane. So you can get in trouble with that.
yeah, I know, I know. That's never easy. That's my problem as well because I usually take my big zoom lens with me. I have the Nikon 200 to 500 millimeter one, and it is
Yeah.
very heavy and quite big as well. So it occupies a lot of space. And I know, like walking on the field, whether it's a rainforest or in the desert, is just well, you feel your back at the end of the day for sure.
Yeah, I think my backpack weighs about 15 kilograms fully packed.
Wow.
So it's if you do a real hike, it's very exhausting. So always keep that in mind. The best thing is in general to keep uh, as much equipment at home or in the car as possible. So because you will take better pictures. That because you don't think about, okay, what lens will I choose or something like that. You work with
Yeah.
what you have, and it's often better to just stick with a lens, especially at the beginning, than work with everything at once.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. That's a very good point you make here. And yeah, it will widen your perspective for sure, and it will force you to be more creative if you only have one fixed
Yeah, or
lens for this
two,
one.
but it's also more fun to look for animals and stuff if you don't have 15 kilogram on your backpack. But to be honest, I'm telling that, and I'm mostly the guy with the 15 kilograms on the backpack. So yeah, uh,
I'm sure.
I'm preaching a bit of water here, and yeah,
Yeah, no, I know the feeling. Listen, the only time I unload the Zoom is at night. If we go to an
yeah,
accommodation before going out at night, I leave the Zoom lens usually, and you just feel like, oh, this is so light. It's so much more fun.
yeah,
But yeah, that's. I think everyone can relate to it who is interested in wildlife and macro photography in the same time.
yeah,
Especially
yeah,
if the trip is focusing on both, or we just take a zoom lens for again have a bit different creative perspective as well. So yeah, interesting, cool setup for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And now I will show you a few pictures and tell you about which lenses I used and why I used them, and also what maybe can be done differently, uh, what I try to achieve with the aperture, with the settings. So we will talk a bit about the technical side also, and also about composition.
Perfect.
So the
Thank you.
first pictures I want to show is this of puff adder. I know you have been to Morocco, think
Yes.
just 1 month ago or something like
Oh,
that.
actually, we came back less than 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago.
Okay, okay.
Very fresh.
Not even a month, yeah. And I know you have tried to find the puff adder. I always have been lucky, but I have heard that they are quite hard to find in Morocco. They are tricky, and especially
Yeah,
right now, I heard that many teams are struggling down there to find them. So
exactly.
you weren't the only one, yeah? Um,
Yeah, that's helps us a bit with, but we tried really hard. We tried three
yeah,
nights in a row. We tried, hiking in the habitat. We did a lot of road cruising and absolutely no luck. Not even a juvenile. So I mean, it is life, You cannot guarantee this. It made us sad and a bit frustrated, but that's life, we cannot force it. If they're not there,
yeah.
if they're not in the habitat, they're not active at night, we can't do anything about it.
No, you don't have a chance. You can only try and spend much time in the field, but if it doesn't work out, you can't do anything about it.
I agree.
Yeah, this picture is of an adult animal. It was around 1 meter long, and it was found in Morocco, as I said. And for this picture, I used a 90 millimeter macro lens, so it's an older picture. Uh, I wanted to show the whole animal in this picture, and I used a flash, and it was found at night. So
Mhm.
I'm using my flash always with a big diffuser, with a big softbox
Mhm.
from SMD-DV.
Mhm.
It's around 60 centimeters big, so quite big, not heavy, but it's bulky. So you have to decide if you want to use something like that in the field, but the light is very smooth. It's like on a cloudy day. I always recommend to use soft boxes. And I think around 60 centimeter softbox is big enough for bigger animals like this,
Mhm.
but also a size you can transport in the field. Uh,
Yeah, it's a good point.
yeah, in this picture, I most of the time I'm using the flash off camera.
Mhm.
So I don't have a flash on the camera. I have a wireless trigger on the camera. Uh, that's also much easier if you're photographing together with other people, because normally with friends, if they have Nikon too, we
Mhm.
are just changing the trigger, the wireless trigger. So we all use the same flash,
Yeah,
the
makes
same
sense.
softbox. So we just need one flash or more. We have two mostly for if one gets destroyed or something like that. And we have one softbox, and so that's quite easy and it's faster, and everyone gets faster the pictures, and it's also easier if a rescued animal it can go faster naturally.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and that's a standard shot which I take from mostly all animals I find, or I try at least from each species. So I want to show the whole animal, the complete animal, and I'm using an aperture around 20 or something like that, even
Okay.
29 in smaller animals, so that it's pretty much sharp. The whole animal is sharp and in focus. The focus naturally has to be on the eye.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. And can I just ask you, I mean, this
Yeah.
style of photograph is more like a textbook picture. I'm not sure if that's the right word. So you shoot from a bit like a 45 or
Yeah.
degree angle, so you can nicely show the whole body of the animal. Am I right?
Yeah, it's 45 degrees
Mm-hmm.
mostly. This one, like I said, was done with a 90 mm macro.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm using the 35 mm macro, and you will see in the
Okay.
next picture why I did improve it. Look at the shadows under the head and on the
Mm-hmm.
coils of the body. They are a bit too they're a bit too black in my taste personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to improve that. And one way to do that is to use a wider focal length because you're closer to your subject, which can be, in the case of a puff adder, can be dangerous. You have to
Yeah.
take care always with venomous snakes, but you get nicer lighting.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, here you see a horned viper from
Mm-hmm.
this individual was photographed in Austria, but they are
Mm-hmm.
also on the Balkan in Montenegro, for example, or Croatia. And this one was done with a 35 mm macro lens. And you see there is not this very
Yeah.
dominant shadow under the animal.
Yeah.
It's also the whole animal is better in focus. I also used an aperture of around 20, 22, I think. And as the wider focal length, it gives you it's more sharpness over the depth. The depth of field is bigger. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm using now, and that's, like you said, that's a typical textbook or documentary style picture, which I often use for articles or also for educational purpose. For example, I have done that with each species in Austria to present them to pupils or at nature organizations and show these animals to people and to tell them how they can identify them.
Very nice. I really like. Yeah, as you said, there is no harsh shadow or just very little, and then looks very sharp and shows nicely the pattern of the snake as well. Uh, nice job. But with 35 millimeters, you need to get closer, right? To
Yes, you have to get a lot closer. So I'm using the Venom Defender gloves on my hand
mm,
to protect me, and also the big soft box. This one helps as well because I'm having that right in front of me, so the animals doesn't really see me. It sees mostly the big soft box.
yeah, it's a good point. We did the same in Morocco. We used the Venom Defender gloves, and most of us had like these big on camera. I mean, we used the camera most of the time. The flash was on the camera, so on camera flash.
Yeah.
But we had these big diffusers. So again, it was with small snakes. It was very safe. They didn't see anything.
Yeah, I
No.
guess you mean the like these Cygnus-Tech diffusers or
Exactly.
polyfield.
Especially we
Yeah.
had three of us had single stack diffusers,
Yeah.
so you
And
nailed
they are
it off.
amazing also for your safety when you're photographing venomous animals because they can't get to your hands. So I think that's for safety, these are really great. And for, as you said, for small animals, they have a perfect lighting.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So that's a picture I take of almost every species I find. I want at least one of these documentary style pictures to show them. Another picture, a kind of pictures I'm taking uh, is this. So that's the same style, in fact, but
Mhm.
on black background
Yeah.
and with animals which are arboreal, so they are which live on trees or something like that. I try to get a black background so the animal really stands forward and you just see the animal and can concentrate on the on the colors and the shape of the animal. For example, this frog was photographed in name of the species is a rockforid species, uh, but I don't know exactly the name at the moment. Uh, it's in amplexus, so
Hmm.
the male is sitting on top of the female, which is quite bigger. I'm often get asked, how do you get this black background?
Yeah.
A black background is created just if there's no light. So if you have a flash which is off camera, and you just flash the frog from quite above, to be honest,
Hmm.
then the black background won't get flashed as much, especially if you turn the flash a bit like to the camera.
Hmm.
And that's how I create black backgrounds. So I don't have to use Photoshop or something like that. I'm too lazy for that, to be honest. I'm just doing that in
Fair enough.
camera with the angel of the flash.
Nice. That sounds very nice. And I really
Yeah.
like the pictures with the black background. It definitely helps, the subject to pop and then
Yeah.
creates a really, really nice photograph usually.
Yeah. Also with also with the black backgrounds help to separate the subject.
Yes.
It stands out, and especially in a dark room to present these animals, it's perfect. I really like black backgrounds, to be honest. I'm a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
fan.
Yeah, I'm there with you on that.
Yeah. Also, this one was taken with a very closed aperture. I'm
Mhm.
often using a closed aperture, or always when I want to uh, show the whole animal so that everything is sharp. I'm closing the aperture mostly to 20 or even 29. This picture was done with an aperture of 29.
Wow.
I've noticed if you get quite close to the animal, 29 produces quite sharp pictures. If you move more away, then around 18, 20 is much better.
Interesting. I personally usually shoot with f11, f13 only. And this time in Morocco, I tried with f16,
Yeah,
and it resulted in some quite good pictures that at least I like the look of them. But f11, f13 works, but it doesn't give that much depth of field. So yeah, I
yeah,
definitely need to find try to increase it to 20, even 29. I'm very curious now how it would look like.
yeah. Naturally, the picture will be sharper if you use something like F10 or something like that. That will work. It is sharper, but you lose depth of field naturally.
Yeah,
And the thing is, uh, nobody will see these pictures on 100% view.
that's for sure.
That's something which each photographer does. I do it too, I have to say. The first thing I do if I take a picture, have a button with 100% view.
Mm,
I'm looking, okay, is the picture sharp or not? But nobody ever will see a crop like that.
that's for sure.
So you don't need it to be that sharp. It has to be sharp, but not that sharp. Especially if you want to print a picture, printers can't print the sharpness. They lose sharpness, in fact.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point. And what ISO do you use with f29 or something like that? Do you keep it like around 200, 160,
yeah,
200?
around 200 to 400
Okay.
in this area. It also depends how far away the flash is. Normally, the flash can be quite close as as it's not on camera. The flash is closer, and so I have more light. if the flash is far away, then I would need a higher ISO.
Yeah,
But
makes
that's
sense.
by ISO 200 or even 400 with a modern camera, which is produced in the last 10 years, the picture will be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. No, I
Yeah,
really like the look of this as well.
yeah. So that's not a big deal. Yeah, I'm also trying that with arboreal snakes like this Trimeresurus macrops from Thailand, for example. And it's done the same way. It's a black background, in fact. So the black background is produced just as the flash just hits the animal. And you see that in this case because you see the shadow under the animal.
Mhm.
So you see the flash is from above, in fact.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. Another lens I'm often using, especially during the day, is are the zoom lenses, the telephoto lenses. This picture, for example, was done with the Nikon 180 to 600 millimeters, and quite a lot of these lenses have quite a good minimal focusing distance,
Mhm.
especially the zoom lenses. The prime lenses, they are sharper, yes, but they don't have this close focusing distance, as they are often used with birds or mammals, and you don't get as close to these animals normally. So it's
Yeah,
not that important, also because they are bigger, to get such a close focusing distance. That's also one of the reasons I prefer the zoom lenses, because I want to work close with reptiles with this lens also. This picture of Asian water monitor was done in Lupini Park in Bangkok. I think
Mhm.
many people who will watch this video will know this park.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's perfect for something like that, where you have an animal around 4 meters away from you and you want to get a head detail or something. Then I'm really happy to have my zoom lens with 600 millimeters to use and photograph these animals.
No, I like it. And I really like the fact that the water is so smooth. Was it naturally like this, or did you use like a lower shutter speed?
It was naturally like this, but
Okay.
in this picture, I just used aperture of 6.3. So it was a very open aperture, but because of the because I'm not as close, I'm farther away from the animal. The distance, the depth of field is a bit bigger, and that's the reason because of the so that's the whole head is looks like pretty sharp, but you see that the tongue, for example, the tongue goes a bit in my direction. The tongue is uh it's not totally sharp. It's
Mm.
okay, and I like the small flicking motion, in fact, but it's not sharp naturally.
Yeah,
Also, the
understood.
tip of the snout isn't as sharp as the eye, for example, in this case. But during the day, I personally prefer that the background is smooth, and then you can't use aperture of 29 or something like that.
Yeah, of course. That makes sense.
But you can also use wide open aperture to get things like this, for example.
Mm.
So I photographed this this frog that's how they called they are Pelophylax ridibundus.
Yeah,
The,
water frogs or edible
yeah,
frogs,
water frog. Yeah,
one
the
of those.
big one. So Pelophylax ridibundus. I photographed this individual on the Balkans, and in fact, this picture was taken at midday. So during the midday, and the sun was shining. And normally, often photographers say you can't take good pictures during the day if the sun is shining. Yeah, that's it can be problematic, but with an open aperture and a lot of water, you can create these wonderful lens flares. And I think it's quite nice to do something like that during the heat of the day. In this case, I was standing in waders in the water, photographing these frogs,
Amazing.
sweating on the head, especially, uh, and trying to get as many of these flares as possible. And if I would have closed the aperture too much, the flares would be much smaller and not that prominent.
Yeah, no,
But you need
I
a
love
very
this.
close animal for that.
Yeah, and do you remember what was the aperture? It was at 5.6 or something like that.
Yeah, this picture was done with a Tamron 150 to 600.
Okay,
The frog was around 3 meters away,
okay,
and it was an aperture of 6.3.
3.3.
So
Yeah,
as open as I can get in this
yeah.
case.
No, I love the effect. It's very unique.
Yeah, and it's quite easy to get, in fact. It also works at night, for example, if you have car lights on a wet street or something like that.
Uh-huh.
It works as the same way.
And where was the sun hitting the subject? Do you remember? Was it
It was midday, so from above,
okay, from above?
pretty
Yeah,
much from above. Yeah.
that makes sense. No, I would be very interested to try something like this or try to create something like this. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's quite easy, in fact. You just have to go really down with the camera on the water level almost,
Mm,
and then you can do something like that.
yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Um, as we talked about black backgrounds, another question I get asked a lot is how do I photograph snakes with their tongue out?
Mm,
If you're shooting at night, then you will use a shutter speed, or especially flash, you use a shutter speed from around 1 to 200 seconds.
yes.
That's not fast enough, in fact, to get the tongue sharp. But the flash always fires with the same intensity.
Mm,
Just the duration of the flash changes. So if you use a weaker flash, for example, 180 or something like that,
mm-hmm.
then the duration is much shorter.
Oh, I
And
see.
naturally, then the tongue will get sharp. So in this case, I pump up the ISO, so around 800 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I use a not not so strong flash in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get a sharp tongue shot.
Interesting.
So that's one way to get a sharp tongue in snakes, for example.
Yeah,
Another way would be to get high up with the shutter speed, but at night with flash,
yeah,
that's
it's
not
very difficult.
you can't do that. You can just do that during the day, and then also you get a very high ISO often, as it's you will photograph these animals in the shade mostly, and not
Yeah.
in direct sunlight when it's too hot for them.
No, I agree. I agree. And you need an Akis who is constantly, flicking his tongue.
Yeah, that helps.
That
That helps.
helps.
That
Yes.
that that helps. I also try to do that with species which are, like you said, constantly flicking their tongue as they are very curious what is going on at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a species from Morocco.
Yeah.
And species you did find on your trip, I have heard.
Yeah, thankfully, yes. It was the first Viper we found, and it was funny because it was like day 6 of the trip, so everyone was a bit, or at least Max and I were quite frustrated that we didn't have too much luck with Vipers or venomous snakes, and we went to the riverbed to try to find them, and the riverbed was flooded with water because it was like a
Wow.
huge rainstorm like 2 or 3 weeks before. So again, our chances were low, but we started looking for it, and I'm not gonna lie, we were in 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds, and Max found one. So we literally left the car, and in 20 meters, Max found one, and we were just really happy. I mean, it
Yeah,
just
that's
lifted
perfect.
everyone's spirits, and yeah, yeah,
And it's one of the rarest vipers in Morocco, in fact. So
exactly.
yeah, very hard to find. I have been in Morocco 3 times, and I
Mhm.
just found them one time. So they are
Okay,
hard to find. So congratulations to this great find.
thank you. It was needed, and it was a very, very nice and very unique snake.
Yeah, they are. Um, this picture is from Montenegro. So we both will do a trip to Montenegro in April,
Exactly.
the Easter holidays. And in Montenegro, one of the snakes I hope to find, I'm pretty sure we will find them because they occur there in big numbers, is the horned viper. We've seen a picture of them in the whole body before. This is a juvenile. In this case, I also used an open aperture and I
Mhm.
photographed through some bushes. And that was taken in autumn. And you see the red and the yellow leaves forming a beautiful bouquet. So this blurry background, that's what we photographer call a bouquet. And
Yeah,
this one was also done with a telephoto lens. So I didn't do
nice.
that with a macro lens. I did it with a telephoto lens as the background was much nicer in this case with the tele lens.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. Very, very nice.
Yeah. Another snake from the Balkans, maybe the most beautiful color in Europe, in my opinion at least.
Yes.
Uh, the leopard snake, Zaminis situla. Uh, and in this case, I have done a white angel picture. So it's taken with the Opteka 50mm macro lens.
Mhm.
And the good thing about these 50mm lenses is you can include the habitat in the shot as well. So you show the
Yes.
animal and the habitat it occurs in. Uh, for these kind of pictures, I'm using the twin flash.
Mhm.
So I have a twin flashes right in front of the lens.
Okay.
They are mounted on arms on the
Okay.
camera,
Yes. Mhm.
and they also have big diffusers, which I built by myself
Mhm.
uh, to get a softer lighting. And yeah, in this case, I closed the aperture pretty much all the way. I think it's around f32 or something like that, so that you get the feeling that the whole picture is pretty sharp. You see the stone walls in the background, the old wood in the background, each grass helm and stuff like that. And that can be a very nice effect if you want to show everything. But in other pictures, you don't want that. So there are two kinds of ways to do these wide angle pictures, in my opinion. The first one is to really use a closed aperture to
Mhm.
show the habitat in detail. The other one is presented in this picture from every, sorry. Uh, this one is also with a very closed aperture, also from the Balkans.
Mhm.
Wanted to show the next picture also. Uh, and in this case, I used a fisheye lens,
Okay.
especially with animals in the trees. I love to use the Sigma 50mm fisheye lens
Mhm.
as it has an angle of sight of around nearly 180 degrees. So you show everything. And at this picture of a four-line snake, uh, it looks so cool in my opinion because you see the sky.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
very
get
nice.
this feeling of the animal which is climbing on this tree. You see the sky, and it wouldn't look that good with the Opteka 50mm because you wouldn't see so much of the sky. You wouldn't have the
Mhm.
feeling that this snake is climbing down a tree.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's very nice.
So in these cases, I always use the Sigma 50mm. If you use a fisheye lens, it's very important that you use one with a very close focusing distance. Otherwise, it won't pop that much. And the
Yeah.
head naturally gets bigger than it would be normally. As you get close with the fisheye lens, uh, there is a quite a heavy distortion. Uh, Also, if
Yeah,
you try to do normal wide-angle pictures with a fisheye lens and you have trees, they would be rounded in the corners, especially. But
yeah,
as it is in the sky, it doesn't matter. You don't see it that way.
yeah, that's true. And do you still use the fisheye with your Z8? Right.
Yes, I have an adapter for that.
Ah, you have an adapter. Oh, and does it autofocus or does it does
No,
no?
no.
So it lost
No,
it. Yeah.
it does, but it isn't very reliable.
Okay,
So you
I
always
see.
have to take care if you do that. I personally prefer to get to take it on the close maximum close focusing distance and then move the camera. And
Fair
with
enough.
the what's it called, the focus peaking, you see quite easily when the it's sharp.
Yeah, makes sense. That's good.
But on the DSLR, that the autofocus wasn't that bad, to be honest. It was
Yeah, no,
working quite
I remember. Yeah, yeah, because I used it with the D500 and it worked pretty well. But with
yeah.
my Z6, it's a bit of a hassle, and I used to use it with as autofocus. Oh, sorry, manual
Yeah.
focus, and I found it quite difficult to use it. So yeah, that's life.
Yeah, it is. There is no fisheye lens, I think, at the moment for the set system.
That's right.
So if there would be one, I would try to update, to be honest. But
Mm.
at the moment, I don't have any options. But there will be coming some lenses, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm 100% sure as well.
Yeah. In this case, I used a medium aperture around 14 or 16 or something like that,
Mhm.
so that not everything is that sharp, especially in the trees on the top. I don't think that they have to be too sharp. So I wouldn't close it all the way in this case.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah. At night, I often try to do double exposures.
Mhm.
This picture of a firefly was done in Taiwan, for example. And this kind of pictures is done in camera. The first picture I take is of the animal. So in this case, I photographed this flying firefly. I used the twin flash and I focused. I did so I focused in on my fingers, so I
Mhm.
knew around 15 centimeters in front the picture will be sharp. And then I followed the firefly and flashed it a few times, and then I looked, okay, is one of the pictures sharp?
Mhm.
And the second picture is done with a tripod naturally.
Mhm.
So I select in the double exposure function of the Z8, I select the picture of the firefly on black background. That's very important. It has to be completely black background. And then I take a picture of the stars and the
Mhm.
camera blends them over each other so that the dark parts will be filled. So it's very important to get the firefly on black background, and it has also to be on black background in the next picture. Otherwise, the stars would be shining through the firefly, and I don't want
I
that.
see. Yeah, that makes sense. Very cool.
Yeah, it's not that hard to do, in fact, but uh, you often need quite a few tries so that the stars look natural, because it's very important that the trees, for example, in this case, they have to look natural and not be in a wrong pointing in the wrong direction or something like that. So you have to take care of it.
Nice. I like it. It's very unique as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I also mentioned that the flash has to be very weak. Also with flying insects, the flash has to be very weak. Otherwise, the insect won't be sharp.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, that's one of my pictures of the beautiful red Viper Ammodytes from Montenegro. This one is from Ada Island,
Hmm.
and that's a detail shot. So in this case, I wanted to do a detail of this animal. It has eaten for a while, and so if an animal has eaten, you can't photograph it that much. You have to be fast and just take a few pictures and leave it alone. Otherwise, it can happen that the animal regulates, so it spits out its prey, and we don't want that naturally.
No, definitely not.
This animal was found on a camping spot, in fact. Yeah, it was hiding in the leaf litter, and I think you always notice the leaf is quite reddish, so it's
Hmm.
perfectly camouflaged in this habitat, and that's what I wanted to show. So I just photographed it from above to show this animal in its camouflage in this leaf litter, how well it blends in. And I really like to do stuff like that also. So
Yeah,
it's quite a prominent picture of the animal, but with this small parts of the habitat, so you get a connection between habitat and animal.
yeah, yeah. Very nice.
For these pictures, I also closed the aperture pretty much all the way. I think this one was done with f18 or 20 or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, it looks very nice and sharp.
Yeah. But you can also do details more close up. For example, that's from Taiwan. It's Yapalura lizard. So Yapalura polygnata is this species. That's just that's not a big lizard. It's not much bigger than a wall lizard, maybe a bit,
Okay.
but not much. So in this case, I used a teleconverter on the macro lens, and also used a Raynox 250. So that's a close-up lens.
Hmm.
So I have a much higher, how's that word?
Magnification.
Yeah, thank you. Magnification, because the part of the animal you see is around maybe 1 centimeter big. So it's
Hmm.
very close.
Yeah.
I used the twin flash as one flash I wouldn't be able to light that up with one flash. So I use the twin flashes. They are quite close. Uh, and I closed the aperture the whole way. So this picture was taken with f 56.
Okay. Cool.
So Nikon shows the real aperture, and if you get really close,
Hmm.
then the aperture will get much higher than normal numbers.
Understood. Understood. Just a quick question on this. Do you
Yeah.
ever do focus stacking?
Sorry. Mm, No, I'm not stacking. It would be an option in this case, but the animal isn't allowed to move and then. And that's quite hard with an Olympus camera, for example. I would do it with focus stacking,
Hmm.
uh, as they can do it in camera and pretty fast. But my Nikon can't do that, so I'm using just a very close aperture. But yes, the better way to do a shot like that would be with focus stacking. It would be the perfect way, in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
think yeah, that could
Yeah.
look very nice. But I mean, I guess the difficulty with when you're this much close to your subject
Yeah.
is the depth of field is very narrow. Even if you go at f56, I mean, most of the things are in focus, but yeah, it still shows how narrow it is.
Yeah, even here you see on the right upper corner, it's not
Mm,
sharp
yeah,
anymore, and that's millimeters. In fact, that's not much. But yeah, you see how much I close apertures when I need it. I always say,
yeah,
don't be afraid of losing a bit of sharpness.
mm,
It doesn't matter. Nobody will see that. The only person who sees that will be you if you
exactly.
zoom in like 200% or something like that. then you
Yeah,
will see that. But otherwise, that's no problem at all.
fair enough. That's a good advice for sure. I think most of us has to stop the pixel peeping because it's just drives everyone nuts, or at least
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah. Just try it out, and you will see how it fits to your style of photography. In fact,
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah. Yeah, that's also a picture I have taken like that. It's also closed pretty much all the way, so F56 or something like that, of Cerastus viper, so Avicenna viper. This one was photographed in Israel,
Okay.
and you just see the head of the snake, so just the eyes of the snake buried in the sand, and you see how small or how big, in fact, the single corns of sand are
Yeah,
in contrast to the snake. So it's a very small animal, I think around 20 centimeters long or something like that. So they are really small, and also here you see it is sharp. It works
yeah,
out.
yeah. It's very nice. We found one in Western Sahara, which
Yeah.
belongs to Morocco technically, but we were very lucky. We found also very. I mean, it's a tiny snake, but very very cool, very interesting
Did,
animal.
did you follow the tracks?
Listen, again, we went in and after 2 minutes started looking for snakes. Max found one under a bush, and it was basically outside of the sand, so on the top of the sand, under a
Yeah,
bush, almost up in the open. So we were extremely lucky. We were
yeah.
extremely lucky.
But I found them in Morocco like that too, under a bush and totally out in the open, basking in the early morning, in fact.
Interesting.
In Israel, I followed tracks,
Mm.
and that's also a thing why you should hire a guide or know how to track an animal, because reading tracks is quite difficult. And I
Yeah.
was very happy that a friend of mine in Israel showed me how to read tracks in advance, because
Mm.
I would have gone in the wrong direction, I guess, if he
Interesting.
wouldn't have shown me how to follow them.
Interesting. And you have a lot of experience. So,
Yeah, but not that much in the desert at this point. So
yeah,
right now
understood.
I know how to do it, but it's very important that somebody shows you how to do that stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. You can easily walk across the tracks and then you just lose it. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So we followed another track for I think over a kilometer, and then we
Oh,
found
really?
the Sahara horned adder, so Cerastus cerastus.
Nice.
And yeah, it was pretty hard at times because there was hard ground, and
Mm.
then you have to spot around 5 centimeters of scale details or something in the loose sand and in small patches where you see, okay, it moved this way. It's quite hard.
Yeah,
It's not
it
that
is
easy.
very. No, it's very hard. I agree.
Yeah. When we were talking about black backgrounds, I told you that I often close the aperture, but you don't have to do that all the time. For example, this is also a picture on black background, but
Mhm.
with a totally open aperture. It's of the um, the blunt-headed tree snake, Imantodus
Yes.
censure, from Costa Rica. Uh, Costa Rica is a wonderful country. I can recommend everyone to go there. And this species they are really tiny, and they are thinner than a pencil, most of
Yeah.
them. And in this case, I used the flash from below,
Mhm.
and the light patches of the snake, they reflected it. And as I used open aperture, these patches are like little flares, which are losing itself in the black background here, with just the eyes in focus.
Yeah, that is very very artistic. And this you won some awards with this picture, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also with the picture of the snake hidden in the sand, this
Yeah.
won awards too. So quite a few of them won awards at international competitions.
Nice. Very unique.
Yeah, and that's one of my latest and I think quite a unique picture, which I
Yeah.
haven't shown anywhere at the moment. So
Okay.
that's only in this presentation
There you
shown.
go.
Uh, so that is Crotalus terrastes, so the sidewinder.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
of course.
in this case, I found the animal on the street. I moved it from the street, and for a short time, I placed it on my softbox to get this white background.
Hmm.
And I photographed it 2 times. That's a double exposure.
Okay.
Uh, and first, I photographed it from above, and then
Hmm.
I flipped the camera on the other
Hmm.
side. I photographed it a second time. I really flipped the camera as I didn't want to move and startle the snake.
Hmm.
And the camera, the double exposure, it overlays both pictures, and so it reminds me on the antlers serpent from Norse mythology.
Yeah, yeah.
So Ouroboros, they are called. And it reminds me of these symbols.
Amazing. That is
It
very,
has in fact two beginnings.
yeah, very unique. I couldn't have guessed just by looking at it. Amazing. That's very, very cool.
Yeah, and it's done in camera, so you don't need Photoshop for something
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that.
Nice. Very nice, actually.
Yeah, and that's my take on photography. In fact, I hope I could have show you some ideas, some maybe hints to what you can do in the future.
Yeah, yeah,
If you have any
definitely.
questions, I'm open for everything.
I think we covered quite a lot. In general, like if someone is interested in macro photography and wants to meet Kai on the field, we do run a workshop together in Montenegro. It will be focusing on reptiles and amphibians of Montenegro, and there will be plenty of options to try and do macro photography. I will link that tour and or other reptile focused holidays in the description below, so everyone can look at it and see if they want to, if you guys want to join. Other than that, I think we definitely should do another one because you have an incredible knowledge and you present it very well. So I think I want people to it can be very very beneficial who are interested for people who are interested in macro photography and nature photography in general. I definitely gained some new perspective and certainly some new techniques with the lighting as well, with the flashes and so on. So thank you, Kai. You've been great and very helpful.
Yeah, you're always welcome, and I really enjoyed it to speak about photography. And I would love to guide people in the field and show them how to photograph these animals and how to improve their photography as well, and how to find these animals, and also talk a bit about the biology of these animals, which is also a very important part of the tours you're doing.
Exactly, exactly. It's one of the aspects as well, learning about the species, learning about the biology, the habitats. There's a lot of habitat distractions happening all around the world. So raising awareness and actually seeing how calm these animals are, that they don't want to harm anyone, especially not us. Obviously, accidents can happen, like in rural parts and with snakes, but these holidays we run are super safe. We keep the safe distance, respectfully handling the animals and then learning about their behavior, their habitats, and biology. So certainly a good option to learn and increase everyone's knowledge.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Kai, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate that. Hopefully
Thanks for the
soon.
invitation.
No, no, no problem at all. And hopefully we can do another one in a couple of weeks, perhaps.